got her eating a little better, but.
Well, she gets in these funks where she won't buy the right food, right? And then she doesn't eat. And then everything bottoms out on top of the whole
She
stuff.
can't do that, but she knows she's got to, see, I'm lucky, I can eat fruit. She says she can't eat fruit. I gotta stay away from carbs. And the carbs, like I get mad every now and then, and I'll like in the morning, I'll eat, even though they're all carbs, I'll eat potatoes and eggs and all that, just as I want to do it within,
Okay,
within
where are
an
you?
hour, the better the basket.
Right.
And then my sugar goes, whoop, it drops. But I can usually save it with orange juice and peanuts. I told her, try nuts.
Yeah, I mean, and she can buy little packets of things and have them on her. I think she's.
What happened?
I don't know the
Did you join?
psychology around why she's doing it.
They're
Like
letting.
she's testing. But
Oh, there you are. Okay, it was only showing Teresa Dawn Keefe.
One time,
Who?
too times, and that's
Is
what,
that,
Mike and I are. Most
is that
nervous
his
about
wife?
this. And then like this stuff on her
That's what?
stairs, to go downstairs, I'm like.
Is that-
Test 1, 2, test 1, 2, test,
It's
test.
all good. Is that Clinton's wife?
Tons of stuff.
Yes.
I told her, if you fall, you do not reach out. You put yourself in like this and wait to hit.
Yay for innovation.
You did.
We did it. We did it. We did it.
Everything is stretched out, and you'll become a chronic dislocation.
I don't know what they have to get it out.
Oh, yeah, and that should to see if she did damage to the rotor cuff or whatever, but.
Yeah.
I told her, I said, look at it this way, it takes your mind off your other
There
problems.
you go. Well, like, I parent people of all ages apparently. I parent Kathy, I parent my own children. It's like, you're parenting Kathy.
She's
Cycle.
stubborn, I tell her that all the time, I said, because long years were close enough to the Reynolds and Allen's, my family.
So I did get an
And I
email.
can criticize them.
It said we noticed the new sign and
We're
resolution
stubborn,
account.
we're stubborn, I said.
And
"Long
if
years
it was
are
me,
stubborn."
there's nothing we have to do.
I said,
Okay,
Kathy, don't be stubborn.
Your help, you know, she's just,
She had a tough time, but she,
she'll be all right. She just has to watch what she eats, and she shuffles because she never got her foot done. So she shuffles, and then she has to on the floor, and then she trips over the things because she shuffled. So that's the other thing she does.
So,
And dark,
hopefully-
and she has lights off all the time. I'm like, Kathy, you have to turn the lights on. Because you forget what you put on the floor and then you trip over it.
When my mother-in-law moved in with us, there was a poor coal mine down out in Western Pennsylvania. I used to say, Mary, this is America. We can turn the lights on.
Well, you know, she was in there in her house when she was doing the floor, and she had, it was like the Inquisition. She had the one light with the light bulb, with no, like, nothing on it. It was a chair, and then she was laying on that couch with her arm like that, because the couch had no support, so she was like, all in it.
I guess she doesn't have a recline,
She doesn't, but she's so
because I told her that a lot
Mary,
of
how are you?
surgeons
Hi.
I always like to recline.
What are you ladies here to listen to Clayton? Are you here to listen to Clayton?
Clayton,
what's Clayton?
What, the only thing we have on tonight is Clayton is doing
I don't know what they gave her.
his response to the task force presentation.
Painkillers.
Are we doing the 9 at 9?
Yeah.
We're here to get you to
When
set
you're
to
sleeping.
release the money for some, only 75 for our
Sometimes.
equipment, so we can get.
We'll stay on our case.
Yes, we will.
What money?
I'm always.
Are we here for the 9 at 9?
I don't plan my
No.
finger.
Okay. What are you?
What's 9 at 9?
The- When you have a
Good.
meeting, you can have
Get us on all
9 people at
sides.
9.
No,
You can have 9 presenters at 9.
no,
We don't do that one?
no.
I talked to Melanie and she talked to you.
Hello.
About the money for the recorder?
We need 2 recorders.
Yeah, I said to get them. She told that. A week ago.
I emailed Eric,
Yeah, a week ago.
and he said, and then he responded back.
Okay. Is that Melanie?
Hi, yes, that's Melanie. How you doing?
Look different. Your hair is different.
That was done a week ago.
Okay,
You're good.
Good, thank you.
You can go home early now.
Yes, With them and go.
Have a good evening.
Got time to stop for a drink on my own.
If I can get through quick enough, I'll join you. Oh. Is this being recorded?
Oh, it is.
What's the day? Yeah. Well, it could be a
It
long
could be a long one, but it's lots of notes, lots of notes.
Things turn on a dime. The price of lockup is changed.
That's respected.
Big tree yesterday. Big tree, yeah, you just heard her from me. Yeah, they were grinding it up today. That's why my power was out.
I'm always last pretty personal. Real fun, watch her and I don't want to talk.
No, we're not doing public hearing tonight. We're just gonna talk with the chief and we might take some questions. If people have questions about the presentation. Kevin, how are you? How are you? Very good, thanks.
Oh, yeah, we all over. This is another person. Yes.
Chair Kevin.
Enjoying it.
He's good where he is. He says, no, no, no. Yeah. I was gonna give him this whole pack of papers, he said, just go on up to the chair.
I never, I didn't even just grab them. and flush them. Okay.
No.
Happy to have a night off tonight. It's got a 16-day stretch. It's working. The doubles in between.
Workforce, I admire that.
Yes, he is.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Put it outside, Linda. Put it out, just open the door, put it outside.
No, I'm flushing.
Oh.
We will be ready.
Yeah, going to call to order the October 14th meeting. Light agenda, we're going to have a presentation by Chief Keith, but before that, I'm going to turn the floor over to our town clerk, Jackie Early, who had to go down to help her brother out unexpectedly. Jackie, we're going to have to listen.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
So I apologize for being on Zoom. I'm here in Memphis, Tennessee with my brother who just had back surgery. So I'm going to be out here for about a week with him or more, helping him get through the healing process. But I did want to make an announcement tonight to the members of the town board. Everybody can still hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I am writing to formally announce my retirement as town clerk for the town of Woodstock effective October 31st, 2025. After careful consideration, I have decided to step down 1 year prior to the completion of my elected term. It has been such a great honor to serve this community, and I am deeply grateful for the trust and the support extended to me over the last 22 years. I am proud of what we have accomplished together and confident that the town is in a strong position moving forward. In light of my retirement, I would like to respectfully recommend, without any hesitation, that Deputy Town Clerk Megan Raimondo, as a resident of Woodstock, to be appointed to serve the remainder of my term. She has, in the past weeks that she has worked with me, she has demonstrated exceptional dedication, professionalism, and a clear commitment to serving the people of Woodstock. I am confident that she will continue to support the town with integrity, efficiency, and care. Once again, I would like to thank for the opportunity to serve this town. I look forward to a smooth transition and will ensure all necessary assistance is provided in the coming weeks. And this is with sincere appreciation. Jacqueline Early, Town Clerk. Thank you.
So Jackie, you've caught me a little off guard here. You did give me a little bit of a heads up this afternoon, so I don't really have anything prepared to say. You've been a loyal, dedicated, hardworking employee for this town for 39 years, and I thank you for your service.
Thank you, Bill. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you. I'm going to offer a quick resolution. Be it resolved, the Woodstock Town Board accept the resignation of Town Clerk Jacqueline Early effective October 31st, 2025. Be it further resolved, Woodstock Town Board thanks Jacqueline for her 39 years of service to the town. Be further resolved, Woodstock Town Board appoints Reverend Raimondo Woodstock Town Clerk effective November 1st, 2025.
Second, discuss.
Discuss.
So, the appointment of somebody who's brand new, no offense to somebody, I think that we should, as a town board, should meet with Megan to discuss that, to see if she's interested in the position. So are we able to change that resolution to accept Jackie's resignation and then speak with Megan
Do
separately?
we want to go into executive session for a few minutes and have a discussion?
I mean, you had that ready, so I just heard this news 30 seconds ago.
Well, I only
I
prepared
don't
it
have
an hour
any,
ago.
I don't have,
So
Why don't we just table it?
And we'll deal with it at our next meeting.
The entire motion?
Yes,
okay.
Okay, well, so we'll have executive session, when will the executive session be to talk with Megan?
we will have executive session Tuesday, 6:30. Half an hour is sufficient? You want an hour?
That's fine.
Okay.
Well, so let's do it 6:30, October
21st.
21st, exec session. Okay. And I just do want to say, I spoke with Megan, before we hired Megan to this position. And Megan talked about her experience, her credentials, her desires, her focus areas, and I am supportive. So I feel like I've already had the conversation with Megan, and I just want to share that I'm supportive.
Okay.
And further to my discussion, I do want to thank Jackie. I think that her 39 years have been really, she's cared very deeply about Woodstock and the people in it. So thank you to Jackie for that service.
Yeah, and I'd like to
Thank you. Thank you, Anila. Thank you,
in
Laura.
different positions here, but ever since, I didn't know you said, excuse me, so when you were in dispatch, but certainly every moment of your time as town clerk, the town clerk's office has run super smoothly. There's a lot to know, a lot of laws to know, and everything just happens like clockwork. You make it look easy. I know it's not easy, but you make it look easy, and thank you for everything.
Thank you so much, Laura. Appreciate that.
She kept our meetings very cool too, because every meeting she'd be throwing the window open to cool down the office. What I would also ask the board is in the upcoming week between now and Tuesday, if you want to private conversation, Megan is available, so.
Well, I think we had a resume, Sean. Didn't we have a resume before we hired Megan? So maybe, I don't know if that resume can be recirculated perhaps.
Would you mind doing that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I saw a text go around about workshop meetings. We were talking about Tuesday and Thursday. I think I saw people were available.
Well, Thursday, I was gonna do Thursday morning, people like mornings. Next week.
Yes.
So you have the emergency meeting at 9 o'clock,
Mhm.
and I had planned to attend that. But I don't have to, so if it makes more sense for me.
Let's do the workshops.
Okay, so Tuesday and Thursday next week, we start
Say
at
at 9
9.
o'clock, that works.
But yes, good talk, take care.
Resolve to schedule workshop meetings for October 21st and October 23rd, both at 9 o'clock at the great room. That's 45 Como Drive.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And I do want to everybody, the board members, but also all the department heads, we did this a little differently this time, because since Bill is not at the sessions, and we know Bill is not gonna be supervisor come January, so those of us who were at the sessions were really getting our arms around it, and especially Anula, who I know is gonna hit the ground running, because Ben had a lot of great questions too. We had very smooth, very informative, but detailed, and our sessions ran longer than they would have. Bill, who knows everything, and he's already got it figured out, but we were getting it figured out, just making sure we understood everything. So I just want to thank everybody for their patience. We had a ton of questions for every department head that came in, and I think it was a very healthy way to work the transition. So just thank everybody who was part of these.
One more quick resolution. I think you've all seen this from Grace. Be resolved, the Woodstock Town Board supports and authorizes submission of grant application to the Hudson River Valley Greenway for the Woodstock Hurley Trail Activity Project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Chief, the floor is yours.
All right. I'd like to say to Jackie, thank you very much. She worked at dispatch for many years, and she was a great.
17 years there.
Yes, so thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Clayton.
Give me one more, Chief.
I didn't have as much time to prepare as the reinvention committee. They had 7-8 months, but I had to wait about,
Yeah, 2 weeks, right?
they're gonna put it.
Well, this is an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, and the one thing that they mentioned, the reinvention committee, was the accreditation program, and I 100% agree with that. That is certainly needs to be accomplished. We did start that actually in 2021. In 2022, myself and the supervisor, we signed a contract with the New York State, this beginning process, January 4th of 2022. And we began, updating creating new policies. Our policy book was outdated for many years. It had, some updates still, but it was from cover to cover. It was reviewed and, it was added to, modified, some of it deleted, some of it was outdated. So, in the February 2023, we completed the task. When I said I did have an accreditation manager. She said, yeah, actually, Phil Sinatra, he was a big help. We spent hundreds of hours of going over our policies. And I have to say, he donated all his time. He never built a account for a dime of his time. And we were, completing that mission over a period of a year. So in December of actually 2022, we contacted DCGS, and the head person up there, her name was Kia Cheever. She was aware that we were ready to go, and so she scheduled us, for review, and for the third quarter of the year. So February 20th, 2023, I did receive a letter from her, and and there's 3 assessors that come down, and she gives us a list, anybody that we don't feel that should be, that we know, that are known to us, they shouldn't be coming. It's all new people. and so they went and, they scheduled us for 3 days in June. June 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And there was 2 time slots. That was the one that I chose. So April 20th or April 12th of 2023. And I just wanted, before I go further, I want to say that the task force that we did in 2019 and 20 that made recommendations that you were part of, and several other people. This was one of the goals. The COVID era, did sideline us for a period of time, but we got back on track at the end of 2020. So we were, ready for a review, in June of 2023. Unfortunately, on May 15th of 2023, circumstances arose within our police department, and our accreditation manager, Phil Sinatra, was actually taken out, and put on administrative leave by the town. And I couldn't go any further without an accreditation manager. We did
There was nobody else that could have taken the position.
I'm sorry.
There was no one else to take the position.
He was qualified though. He did this. The original one for his former police department, Cornwall Police Department.
But there was nobody else.
He had certification, and he had the knowledge how to do it. And like I said, we were all set. We did what would take a lot of time. He was very confident. Putting it together. So so of course, the past couple of years, it's just been sidelined, for that accreditation manager. And we couldn't go any further without. He was the one that was recognized by New York State. And we thought he was going to be back to work a lot sooner. He's still 2.5 years later, he got back to work for us. So but over the past couple of years, I have kept up to date with our standards. There was originally 111 standards. The state added 2 additional standards, and that was our reporting requirements to the Attorney General's office and our standard of hiring practices. Which I think we did pretty good. I had 2 auditors last fall coming out for half a day, and they reviewed our personnel files, and they were very very thorough at it. I thought I was going to be able to sit in the room with them. They kicked me, and Roger Gates that actually our backgrounds. Said no. We're here by ourselves, and if we have any questions, and before I go, I'd also like to just get out. This is our backup documents. Show the standards. In the timeline. If you look at that front page, that actually shows all the critical standards. And there's a lot of requirements to comply with accreditation. It's not just a simple project. But we were very close to it. And and we can get to it again. Just we have to schedule. We have to get back online.
Is that something you can email? Pardon me, can you hear me?
Back here. So I want to touch on to our training, that we've actually, been doing, the required training. The New York State requires 21 hours of training. We get more than 21 hours. We get as much as we can get. It covers the arms, qualifications, the sexual harassment, the workplace violence, the defensive tactics, the use of force, the CPR, AED, and right now our officers are actually training with the town of Holston, City of Kingston. They're accredited agencies, and they took us under their wing 3 years ago. And they are you're certainly helping us with our training programs. And I want to give them a lot of credit. They didn't have to do it. It was I consider it an honor to be accepted to work with them. And as far as training goes, the outside training, one of our officers, fortunate, we just sent him 2 weeks ago to a week-long class with the sheriff's department with photography, for crime scenes. We do offer as much training as we can. Unfortunately, unfortunately, with our limited workforce, we have to staff our road patrols. There's 2 officers on the shift. And, so, I just can't send as many people as want to go to training all the time.
I understand you already used that training?
I did.
Congratulations.
Like I say, Corey's a very good officer out there. He's been doing a lot of work, getting a lot of credit. And I've got 2 other officers right back there by Sea Line Patrol. They are great officers too. Caitlin and Kevin Hayes.
Just for clarity's sake, so Corey has the required certification to complete the accreditation? Is that what was that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear what the question was.
No, he did give me a letter, as of today, that he's interested.
Oh, good, okay, thank you.
He and one of the sergeants.
One of the sergeants, but just understand, they've never done this before, so it's a lot to undertake. You just don't say, I want to do it, and you jump into it. It's a lot of responsibility. Yeah. So and with the training, like I just mentioned, I have an issue with our part-timers. I got a lot of part-timers, and without the part-timers working, half of my part-time staff are not taking work shifts anymore. It's been a problem for a number of years. I'd like the town board to help me address that.
Well, if I may say, you and I did talk, and I did recommend that you send a letter to the town board listing the officers and, for the collaboration, we need to communicate both ways.
Me and Bill sat down before, we've already looked at the officers, supervisors aware of the, but it takes just more than him, it takes the board.
Well, exactly, but I know to make that happen, it'll be helpful if we see the list, and then we can work together as the board to take action. And I don't think I've seen the list.
One of the things that I talked about was sending out letters to those who had not been given time. How did that go?
I sent out letters, and it was directed, I had basically no response, so I need help from the town board. This is not just something that was just created.
How many such officers?
I say I get at least 5 or 6.
Okay, and each one got 1 letter?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I mean, I'm happy to help, because did they respond to the letter?
No.
Okay, so we have some policy for next steps in such a situation?
I have at the police department a policy that requires them to work, minimum.
If they can't meet the standards,
100 hours a year, which is really nothing.
So they're
That's
taking up
one
a
shift
slot,
a month.
essentially, they're taking up a job that could be open to somebody else. Okay, so, what do we need to do, and again, I understand we're going into a human resource matter, but I'm happy to have.
It's not specific. I think what needs to happen is another letter goes out, a second letter. Telling them either they need to conform to the policy or.
But I'm asking for the town board.
So we would need to
have
have through
removing.
But given that Clinton's already sent 1 letter, would it be better for that next letter to come to the board? Because we do have the higher fire capability.
I think it should come from the chief. He can say that the next step would be for the town to seek removal.
And Chief, would you copy the town board on the second email, saying this is your second and final, or however you're gonna draft that?
I can certainly.
Okay.
Did you send hard copy letters or emails?
They were hard copy.
These are hard copy letters.
If I remember
So you
correctly,
can scan
we sent them certified mail.
Well, maybe
Because I think you have what, is it 11 part-timers? Is that right?
98 to 2000. Oh, not a lot of people with that.
And if you have 6
Where
of
that
them, and then half of your part.
Yeah, see if anybody can do the fucking.
And as I recall, they have a Woodstock badge and a Woodstock gun.
Weren't you in high school?
So the part of dismissing them from Woodstock employment is getting those things back, so.
You're 8 years old. That's how old that shirt is.
Helping the town out, cover shifts.
No.
They're not also going to training, so this is
Yeah, so well, we should,
an issue.
right, we should take
Move
the steps
forward.
needed, we should move.
Yes,
We should effectively move
you'll
forward.
get up, just ask the town board to back me up, and I need a town board's help.
So Clayton, what I would ask you to do is, by the next week, get us a draft of the letter that we'll review as a board and give you the approval to send out. Okay.
Is there a union involved? Is there anything that needs to happen on that side?
I'm sure they might get involved. You know.
But this is a compliance with a
Yeah,
policy,
yes.
and these letters are going out to people who are out of compliance with the
Yes,
policy.
Correct.
And it's the town board's policy.
Well, it's the police
It's the
department.
police department's policy, and it's the town board's decision to hire or fire according to.
Yes, I wish you all knew you'll show up and take shifts,
happy to be a part of it.
It's just,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
I'm happy to be a part of that. Yeah, I'm happy to be a part of
Okay.
that.
So have that to us in a week late, and notify the attorney just to.
it's not just not police chiefs, you visit the town board.
Well, it is, but I think as Bill has laid out, the next step is you to send a second letter. And I think the next step, then Bill, you're agreeing, next step is the board.
They need to get the letter, and then the board would need to, if they don't
Follow up.
respond, Clayton would need to get back to the board and say,
And here are the names of people that have. not
Joe,
been-
Frank, and
Yeah.
Ellie Mae have not complied.
But I certainly think if you send a second letter, which sounds like you're going to, that you can say, this was discussed in front of the entire town board, and the town board feels seriously that policies should remain in compliance. So they'll know in advance exactly where we
Yeah.
stand.
Well, and I agree, so I think all four of us here at the table have been vocal, so you certainly have a quorum of the board that is
Supporting this.
supportive.
And the people that are not working, they're not bad people, it's just, they're involved in their full-time jobs, and their life's changing.
I'm sure a lot of them intend to work, and just
Yeah,
can't.
they're taking up a spot, they're good people, but they're taking up a spot, so, and we need to make things.
I'd like to be able to send these officers to more training, but he's working.
Are you guys recording? Oh, it's on.
He's working 16 days straight, I don't know how many days, those two are working straight, I mean, it's a long hours. And they shouldn't have to worry about, being the only ones, coming in, and helping the team.
Well, and you can give them, your letter hopefully will give them the option to come in and just resign and return the stuff. But if they don't come in and resign, the board is ready to act because they're non-compliant. And not just non-compliant, they're extremely non-compliant.
Yeah, but you just one, not answering back, is bad.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Correct. So,
I think the other thing, before we get too far along, because I really do think we need to get on with the accreditation program. And I know that Corey and Sergeant McGrath have both offered to. Adam was interested back when we started this. So I think maybe if we're gonna have executive session next week, maybe we could do it at 6 o'clock and talk with those two officers about how they see us moving forward with that.
But, I'd also like to ask again where we stand with our accreditation manager. I mean, this is.
Not here either.
Okay.
yeah, okay,
But I'd like to be part of your meeting next week if I can.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. But I also see at the bottom of the second page, it does say, the only certified program manager by DCJS. So my question would be, how do we get other people in your department to be certified program managers by DCJS?
Yes.
So it sounds like maybe you have to be a certified program manager.
You know what, you have to have a company, your program manager, they should go to training. You know what, you don't want to put somebody into a position to take, and, a lot of this work's already been done, so, and the accreditation manager we have right now, my understanding, he still comes to work,
Yeah, but that's a topic. It's always.
I've already asked you once, don't vote.
It's always good to have a backup for everything anyway. So it just seems to me, perhaps one of the things we can consider is should we have an additional person from the police department being a certified program manager by DCJS? I mean, we have excellent people in the police department and they're experienced. It would make sense, maybe somebody could take over that role too, so to be a second person. So anyway, just, there are different ways to get there.
Absolutely. It might, do you have a question about that?
I just also think it should be a full-time.
But
It's gonna be there often.
So that's a great point, right? So,
just so you know, there are part-time agencies that have part-time officers, as long as they're competent and qualified, they don't stipulate whether they gotta be full-time or
I
part-time.
think this is all a good discussion for 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay.
see you at 6 next Tuesday.
Whoever sees Adam, just
So-
let him know.
So, the accreditation, it sounds like the work has been done. We're at some point, over this period of time where, we've had a little bit of a lapse. Are there significant changes that have to happen, or is it a matter of, just saying, hey, come on in and audit us? Go through this process?
There's certain things that have to be done.
Okay, so there's a little bit more.
Yes, and we just can't take somebody, totally blind and say, here, this is it,
Yeah, and then part B to that question is, does the town board need to review anything, look at anything, discuss anything?
Well, there are certain things I'd like to discuss,
Who's winning?
That's exciting.
It's not the Mets, don't worry.
Or the Yankees.
Or the Yankees,
Yankees.
or the Yankees.
New York brawling here.
Oh, no.
I don't know.
The next thing I'd like to move on to is our communications technology, if they're the task force review, you have to be more transparent, absolutely, stuff should be put on, online, our policy should be, you put on the town website, it's so secret, once look at my town policy, the department's town policies, they should have an opportunity. It's never been a secret with me, it's just, come in and the manual's pretty thick itself, but I'll certainly look at any policy that everyone will talk about. And communications, I've mentioned this, before, last year, I'd like to come to the town board, once a month, speak to the public, I think, it's important, to be, heard, and seen, the only way I get here is I have to get invited by the supervisor.
You can ask to come anytime.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, and of course that helps with all the transparency of the whole department, and the facilities, oversight, and, that again, communication, certainly helps. And, I mentioned this back in November, December,
Excuse me for interrupting. One thing on the technology, so communications technology, so that we talked a little bit about the website. I believe the task force also made a recommendation for the policies being in a program in the vehicles, if I recall that correctly.
Yeah.
And is that something that?
Actually, most of the officers, where you should come across with the policies.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so they can put it right in the computer, and look at it.
In their vehicles?
Yes.
Okay, and so do we need to talk about all vehicles having that so that every officer gets that, that type of an update and a reminder? Because there are many policies, right?
But anytime there's any changes, I have what we call a standard operating procedure manual, the officers
In the
come in,
manual.
and it's an old 3-ring binder sits right there opened up. The officers are supposed to review that, on a daily basis, and, initial, there's new policy change, so, it's policies aren't made and just slid into the manual.
Okay.
It's made no to all the officers.
Okay. And there's software that could be put inside of cars that actually reminds officers, hey, this policy, I don't know, that might be too much for right now, but
Yeah.
anyway, I think that was a recommendation that came out of the task force. Because there are so many policies, it's good to keep it fresh and top of mind for the officers. But okay.
Yeah, but I do want to thank you, Clayton, because one thing that you do is you regularly send us reports of the police department activities, and I want to thank you for keeping the board informed.
Thank you. And so the communication between the board and the police department, I mentioned, at the end of last year, I think there should be at least a liaison between myself and the town board. Could be a police commissioner, could be a separate person, but
You don't want to be the supervisor.
we talk all the time, it's just, it should be somebody separate, that can, look from the outside in, and hear your side, my side, the officer sides. it would certainly help. The unbiased policing, recruit, retain, the unbiased policing, some of our officers already have that, that is a goal for 2026 to get, get everybody with that, even our dispatchers, because they are part of the police department, separate department, but they are part of the police department. Recruitment and retention, I got to give credit to Robert Chikadis, he certainly is a big help. Robert Chikadis is one of our part-time officers. He works at the at the EP full time, but he works also at the academy, police academy. So he looks at these new recruits. He can kind of scope them out who fits into our department. So when they recommended Kevin and Caitlin over there, the two new officers. So he's not sending us somebody that's not going to be compatible to our community. He knows what we're looking for. He does a great job with his backgrounds, and he does. He's a background officer, for the department. And like I mentioned before, the two auditors that came down last fall, they spend a lot of time going over our background policies. It's no 2, 3, 4 page background. They want a 60-page report in front of them, and they want to make sure that we're doing it. And then. And they, as you look, it's attached in the paperwork. It's one of the last pages. But they sign off on it. They check the boxes and they make sure that we comply. This is one of the newer standards that they just came out with. And, it's time consuming. So again, this is part of the being the accredited agency. It's all these standards here that we have to comply with. It's not just saying that we become accredited, it's staying accredited 5 years later, it's a lot of effort, a lot of work, involved. With the recruitment, it's the officers we have, they probably tell you, I always worry about they're going to you can't meet an envelope saying they're leaving, going somewhere else, which I've had a lot of good officers, leave us, but we try to keep them all, and I think I can count on Caitlin and Kevin stay for us a long time. They get right into our community. And to bring like I said, people that fit into our community. Just not hiring an officer. It's getting the right ones. And a good officer, if they're not suited to Woodstock, they know it. They will do some time and they'll leave. We've had that happen in the past, and we want them to leave if they don't fit our community. I've been here a long time, so I know what our community likes. And we got a good mix of officers. And we're a small department. The sheriff's department, City of Kingston, largest city police departments close by. They offer more than we have. They offer K9 units, dive teams, investigator positions. There's a lot of attractions out there. It's not just a young person wants to be able to do stuff. And we try to be give me as much as we can. Again, as you guys are going through a budget, which we have to stay within the budget. Which I'll talk about that very shortly too. The Lexipol training, that was talked about. I did look into that a few years back. It's very expensive. Like I said, we rewrote our policies. It didn't cost us very little. Where on a yearly basis, it could cost us up to $30,000. And we still have to modify these policies to fit each department. A neighborhood police department policy may not conform to what we do. To the amount of supervisors we have, and so even the state policies that the issue the use of force. I had to modify that somewhat years ago to fit our department. Because, it's meant for larger departments.
So your recommendation is that we don't pursue it because we don't need it. You've got things managed. The department size session can be managed without this extra cost.
I mean, to have the added cost, and the work is already done on our policies.
Right.
you have community policing, our foot patrol and bike patrol, yes, used to be great, you'll see a foot patrol out there, other bike patrol officers. After the COVID era, and I do have 5 officers that are bike certified.
So let me just back up to the lexical. You are presently making sure that everybody gets their yearly firearms and they're meeting all the.
Well, yes, when they show up, this is the issue with the part-time officers, we have to address, which we'll address it next Tuesday. We're going right now through our cycle, what town of Ulster and city of Kingston called our cycle 2 training. Tori just went last Tuesday for 8 hours. So that's about 8 hours, right? You did CPR, first aid, workplace violence, sexual harassment, and a host of other topics. But like I said before, I'm honored that you allowed us to be part of their training program. It's more officers, that they have to train, but it's, but they understand what we're trying to do. We're trying to get our training, on par with the accreditation, and they have been accredited for a long time. And the community policing, so like I said, the bike patrol, I'd like to get that back out there again. I need part-time officers to do it. We have 1 full-time officer, Brian Williams. He was certified years ago. He hasn't actively done a shift in a long period of time. As you see, there's 5 officers there. That Steve, each one of you, one hasn't picked up a shift in 2 years. Another's out on medical for 2 years. Another one's on administrative leave, for 2 years. The other officer's full-time, gets 20 hours, yes, and you show a desire to do it, and another officer, who's just been unavailable, he's to work anymore.
So I think I'm seeing here though, as you say, currently I only have 5 officers who are bike patrol certified. Would it make sense to get some more certified? Because the 5 you just mentioned, some of them aren't going to be going out.
Yes,
So
as we hire new people, I'd like to send them to school.
yeah, so that's a school. What would this school that would go?
It's a week-long school. And our neighboring, police, department down in Starbase, they normally offer it, and we can't offer it.
Okay.
And we have people that are interested in, in the ability to send people, like I mentioned earlier.
Do we have any budget issue with sending the officers to that school?
No.
Is it a costly school or free?
It's free as far as you're attending, but we still have to pay the officer's salary, and if we take a full-timer off the road, we have to pay for that, shift to be covered.
Yeah.
So it's free, and
free is not free.
In one way, yes.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. It just seems like it might be good to get some more people certified. That get a set of people who actually would be doing it. Certified might be good. That's certainly a goal. Like I say, as I get new part-time officers that want to work, we can see a change here. But I can't keep creating positions and have people not working. Well, yeah, so we've talked about, we need to follow up on that and get that solved. And as far as the vision statement, I mean, we do have a vision statement, that vision statement is been used by a lot of police departments. It says the principal mission of the Woodstock Police Department is to provide for peace and security of all residences, or all residents, businesses and visitors of the town of Woodstock, and to assist other local, county, state, federal law enforcement agencies who seek assistance. The responsibility associated with this mission include enforcement of local, state, and federal laws and protect life, property, and generally assist citizens in urgent situations. We're expected to carry out these responsibilities diligently and courteously, and to take pride in the services they provide. We will at all times work in cooperation with community agencies and groups to promote understanding of and competence, in our law enforcement. And this is hangs right in our lobby. The public, you come in here, you can see that it's right there. It's inside the patrol room. It's
what the first page is in our rules manual, so. And this is accepted by the accreditation too, so, just so, accreditation, we have shared information when we were going through the process. They wanted to review, several documents with us, so I don't see any problem with that, and, the wellness program, this is something that needs to be accepted, adopted by the town board, I'd like to just share with you, just a copy of our policy,
So you're looking for us to review this and respond back?
There's one part of this, that needs, who needs to, approval of the board, and, it's basically, at the very end of the policy, talks about, the critical incidents that officers deal with, how we have, medical people, psychologists, psychiatrists, available. Locally, and also through the county, through the sheriff's department, it's been a big help. It talks about, the mental wellness, physical fitness, the checkups, the regular exercise program, and that's where, if you look at page 3, talks about, we want officers, to actually be helpful, to do their job, and feel good. And if there's an incentive, for them, if they go, 3 times a week, and they do it for a period of time, we have to give 8-hour shift off, so 4 days a year, they could accumulate, extra, if that was an incentive, to go to the gym, and to actually be part of it, but they have to, provide documentation, that they are, going to it, and, so it's, so it's 120 hours, or 120 hours, 120 minutes per week, we have listed here. So it's basically 3 exercise sessions per week for a minimum of 120 minutes per year. But this takes approval, of the board, and it's also, this is part of the accreditation, so this comes with a dollar value, when you give time off to people, incentive, it also, costs us money.
So the town board needs to have a discussion with the unions. We
Whether it's-
can't give it a reward without having a sign off.
So the
That's
request-
why he needs the town.
Yeah,
town
so,
board.
right, so the request to us is to approve this, and now we all have a copy of it. So maybe that means that we can be adding it to an agenda in the future to have a resolution to accept it. And maybe if our board has, say, a week or two to respond to Clayton with any updates, and if there, and then, maybe after a week or two, if there are no updates, then we can have a resolution to adopt it. So that's my proposal of how to get this.
We did have 2 officers that attended this program last year, and literally, I had to shut it down because because I thought it was all accepted, but I was made aware that it wasn't, but there's a part that the town board has to agree to. And, and I don't know if the union might have to have some input on it also.
So I don't know. I mean, we're asking board members to get back to Clayton and say in 2 weeks with any comments, and then if there are no comments in the meeting in November, we can have a resolution.
Then we go to the union.
But so we have to go to the union before the town board approves this, we have to go to the union. Okay, so it's.
Is this an electronic format? Will these documents be a lot easier to look at in electronic format and comment
You
on?
can email it to us, right?
Our rules manual.
Well, these documents you get are the ones though.
Yes, I can make that available.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'd like to just touch on too, a third sergeant, it's been 15 years since we've had a third sergeant, I don't see any issues with not having one, it's been on our midnight shift, our, B line and C line shifts, you'll have, a sergeant assigned each year. shift, and most of the calls come in on the day shift in the evening, I would estimate probably 95%, of the, police-related calls, come in on those shifts, it's not been busy nighttime, Woodstock, we used to know 30 years ago, or 20 years ago.
Well, I think the other statement too, though, is if you don't have a sergeant on that shift, the officers, if they need to reach out, they can reach out to the county, correct? It's not like they don't have anybody to reach out to if they need help. They do have people they can reach out to. If they need help.
When you call for help, there's always a, police, that will respond.
But then when you're a police officer, if you have a third shift officer that doesn't have a sergeant, that officer has somebody who will respond as well.
Yeah, and I have no problem, you'll take the calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, never have, you never will. Corey, you were in Midnight for a while, said, you called me several times, I don't answer the phone, you better come check on me, but that's what my job is, to answer the phone. If it rings, you're supposed to answer it.
Is this a requirement that there's a sergeant on each shift?
No.
It's not a policy anywhere?
No, it's not, the state doesn't require it, it's a municipal decision.
It was recommended by the task force, that's why Clayton's covering it, because
Right.
the task force mentioned it, and that's why Clayton's giving his feedback on it.
Yeah, and the cost of the third sergeant, it's in their contract, it's a 10%, stipend, so it could cost between $6,000 to $8,000 extra, plus more to make it overtime, everything bumps up. So that's all a dollar value that the town has to look at.
Well, are the sergeants restricted to dealing with their specific shifts, or?
Right now, there's only 2 sergeants on the schedule. One's going to be a B line, and the other's going to be a C line. They both can't be on the same.
Correct, but if the C line can't get the C line sergeant, and they need some direction, can they call the B line sergeant?
Yeah, absolutely.
So having a third sergeant would just give all the officers on any shift the opportunity.
Yeah,
if they can't get Greg, they can't get Adam, they can get Sergeant Schmidt.
We're not responsible to answer that call.
They're not.
So if they call in the middle of the night, the
Right.
sergeant is not responsible to call.
Right, no, I'm not saying they are, but if you're there and awake, you could pick up.
I do gotta say, Corey, I was a sergeant here for 17 years. I never refused to answer phone call. On duty or off.
And then you're the fourth backup.
A lot of times I'm the first one. You'll after hours. Yeah. And I don't yell at them. I want them to call me. You have a question? That's.
So can I just ask that the addition of the sergeant is in your mind, just that it's a financial consideration, that there's nothing wrong with having a third sergeant. You're just saying that it's a financial consideration that you.
Just understand, there's only 2 officers on a shift, so that sergeant isn't going to be supervising 5 officers. He's only supervising 1 other officer. And then when he's off, you have nights where there's no sergeants, or if they're on vacation. But we do have a policy that the senior officer, and it's been in place for many years, that the senior officers, just like in any, incident on the street, they have the right to make a sudden decision out there.
So the B and the C lines supervise more than 1 officer, but the A line.
No, the B line is the same thing.
Same
But
thing.
there's more going on, you're saying, because you're saying not much is happening in that overnight shift, whereas during the first shift and the evening shift, there's a lot more activity.
Yeah, yes.
So there's more for the sergeant to do on that shift.
Yeah. I'd love to see Woodstock come back to its night activity that I had years ago. I don't know if we want 100 kids on the Village Green anymore. Or 5, bars open till 3 o'clock.
Our nightlife.
But there's people here that have grown up here, that they never used to it. Marcel may not like the noise over there. With the old Choice Lake, it was loud. It was. We dealt with noise complaints for many years. Loud music.
You didn't like the Pinecrest either.
Yeah.
You He didn't like the pine trust either.
I guess, I agree, that was loud, it was loud a lot of times. I totally agree with him, it was, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, it's after hours.
I had something to say, with the A line though, right now, they have experience about 1 year together. Where a sergeant does come back. So a sergeant with more experience would be on that shift. Right, so these officers are not as competent. They're not as experienced with calls. It's also an opportunity to do clerical things that need to get done. Right now, like I'm doing discovery, that probably should be a sergeant that's doing that kind of stuff. There's certain stuff that could get done on the A line where it's a little bit slower for that responsibility as well.
Any more questions about third sergeant?
It could be a growth opportunity for one of our officers as well. So somebody who could grow through the ranks and get that training and move into that position, which would be really great to see.
Yeah, you just gotta get the right people in the right positions, that's all.
Yeah, well, so I guess I should, so I just, yeah, I'm sure I should know this, but I'll ask anyway. So a sergeant's pay, I mean, their grade level is probably different from a not sergeant. Would that be a true statement?
I'm sorry. what
A
was that?
sergeant's grade level, wouldn't that be different from a not sergeant?
Yeah, 10%.
Yeah, so, so the sergeant, so that's the difference between the pay grades. So if you're a sergeant, you get the sergeant pay grade.
Yeah, so if the officer's making, let's say $100,000, it's gonna make an additional $10,000.
It'll be a promotion. It'll be a promotion.
It'll be a promotion, but you also gotta factor in, overtime goes up, everything goes up with the added.
When you're on that shift, so that shift,
When you add another sergeant,
Okay.
that 10% increases everything.
well, what else is there to increase besides what?
If they work overtime hours,
Oh, right,
you'll
it'll
certainly
be extra.
bumps the rate up.
It just cascades.
Yes.
Are we paying people more for working A-line because it's?
Yes, what the C line and A line get a 3% shift differential.
Okay,
So each year, if they get a 3%, let's say January 1st, they're gonna literally get a 6% raise.
okay. So this sergeant would not only get the 10% above because they get paid more for that grade level, but they'll also get, if they're working on the A-line, they get another 3% because they're working on the A-line.
Yeah, so sergeant, he's working evening or midnight shift, you'll be making 10%, plus 3% plus another 16% increase.
So Woodstockers can sleep better at night.
Yeah. It's just whether, again, it comes down to, the cost, which, and as you're doing the budget, this is stuff to consider.
Yeah.
And the plainclothes detective, that came up in the reinvention committee report. We never had a plainclothes detective, I've been there, I have been there the longest year. We have had uniform detectives, on and off over the years. Our uniform detective the last one was John Ambrose. He's been going, at least 3 years, and he did a great job. And that also comes at a cost also, uniform detective gets a 6%, stipend increase. So you have to factor that into your budget.
Well, although that seems like more doable in a way, you'd pay them 6% more, but you'd also have to pay for training because you really don't have people that are trained to be detectives right now.
But usually detective, it starts with a baseline cop, somebody that really shows initiative, like Corey showing it, when in Kevin, I mean, they're all showing great initiative out there, So,
But to be a uniform detective, you would, is that, they have to be passed like a test of sorts to be able to be in that role?
there's actually no test.
You just assign them, train them, and handle it.
But I would like to point out that, for the 41 years that I've been in town, we've worked very good with the state police, BCI, and until just most recently, we had an unattended /suicide, recently in the village. They came up and they bring their team of people up. They're very, very qualified, and they don't give me a hard time. You call to us out, and I've been chief 15 years, and same thing with the sheriff's department. Or you work for the sheriff's department, you go to a team, and if the response team, the buttons charge, and they're very helpful. So we have a lot of resources out there from other agencies,
And the officers do get some latitude about looking for training, so somebody who might want to be a detective would focus on that. They're all required to get a certain amount of training every year. Correct.
Yes. They get their 21 hours of basic training, but they also get more, training. And just like we're offering, to everyone to go to the firearms training, again, Kingston, we only require it once a year, but Kingston also, is telling their guys here they have to go twice. So, and, I'm not mandating it, but I'm asking the officers to do it. What you're gonna do, hopefully, I'll take it. Advantage of them, 2 days. It's not just firearms you're training; it's tactical. You exercise it out on the range. It's not just shoot at a still target anymore. They really get more work.
Does the town pay for the ammunition?
Yes. Yeah. That's why the ammunition budget went up a little bit. And the cost of the plaintiff's detective, with all the benefits and stuff, you're given vacation time, you're given a lot of, you want to factor in about $100,000, for that salary alone. Then you have to buy a car, which could cost up to, $50,000. Maybe you can find a good use one out there, maybe not.
But is there any value to having a uniform versus a not uniform detective? I mean, they're producing the same result. Would that be a true statement?
Yeah, but our criminal, complaints that come in, we don't have a large amount. That's why we never really, have a need for a full-time detective.
But whether somebody's got the role of detective, whether they're wearing a uniform or not wearing a uniform, aren't they producing the same?
I think the difference, Laura, is that a ununiformed detective, he would be in 40 hours a week just doing detecting work. So it would be an additional officer on one of the shifts.
But for every case that they were assigned, they produce, doesn't matter whether they're wearing a uniform or not, they're still producing the same result. But like you're saying, the one would be kind of full-time at it and the other one would be.
Right. When we're talking about uniform, that is just an individual who's doing his regular shifts. He could be out writing a speeding ticket and trying to investigate at the same time. So it does limit to a degree.
I want to go back to facilities if we can. So the idea there is, do we actually have the physical facilities that we need for different situations that have come up in our past? Do we in fact have facilities so that female officers feel comfortable? Those types of things. So I would say, please consider that. And then we should talk about facilities from that perspective. Does the actual building require anything so that we improve the situation for the officers while they're in that building? I guess is how I could put it. Are our records locked up sufficiently? Is there appropriate oversight over things that get locked up? That in our evidence room, things like that. Are there needs that the police department requires so that the town can avoid problems in the future? So that's one thing I want to kind of put out there for consideration.
We do have a locker room upstairs, that not all the officers use it, some do. It's a co-ed locker room. It's got two locks on the door. So if there's somebody inside changing, they can put the second lock on, if it's a male or female, There's also a changing room inside that locker room. So these are all things that we took into consideration years ago. It wasn't until just recently. For years we only had one female officer. Now a quarter of our department is female officers. And I think they do a very great job out there.
So facilities wise, if anything pops into your mind.
I mean, our building, what we used to be into, before 10 years ago, was a small two-room, operation, very confined. We have a very nice building down here.
The town hall renovation was great, great step.
Yeah, so, and then another item that I didn't see on the list is the oversight of the police department, and the discussion about, some type of a commissioner or an ombudsman or some type of a liaison between the town board and the police department, so that we could ensure, some oversight over the police department and that the,
But I totally agree with you. You know, I asked for this back to you last fall, and I'm 100%, on board with that.
Okay, and I want to say, speaking for myself, of course, everything comes at a cost. However, I think we will reduce costs by investing in these good practices, because we will avoid the legal situations that cost an arm and a leg. And also the cost of losing officers could be up to double to attract and retain a new officer and train him or her from, day one. So,
Unfortunately, we're not the only department that hire, Rosedale, Sawfish, a lot of smaller departments, they hire people, they get a start, then they move on to the larger departments. Not everybody, but it's, it's not the same mindset where somebody spends a career in a small town police department anymore, And I'd like to be able to say, yeah, we got a K9 unit, we got all these extra, things out there.
well, I'm gonna put my dog into that training, so I think we should go for that. I've got 2 dogs ready to go. But in all seriousness, some of the recommendations went beyond, the accreditation is great, and it's gonna enhance the training if every officer across the board has that training. But if we consider 1 or 2 areas where we want our officers to support fire or to support a search and rescue, or to go help, get somebody who fell off overlook over there, the opportunity for some enhanced training is very important. And if we can sit down and maybe discuss this as a town board with the chief, we can look at issues that are going to be very prevalent in our future, environmental issues, fire, things like that, and kind of figure out what might be relevant so that these officers can further their careers in training.
When the 2 officers right back there, they went down to town of Rosedale, they offered a class,
Yeah, so
search
we
for,
can standardize that,
you're searching for missing people, we have a Capitol Park. And
Maybe I'll take my dogs there.
you guys find that would be very beneficial, right? So here's
And I'm assuming that every so often, every month or so, there are new trainings that are offered.
There are, I have to look at the schedule, you'll have to kind of juggle, a lot of things, priority is to keep 2 officers on the streets in Woodstock,
Sure.
And if we get back to, our, part-time force, helping us out, that will be a big help.
I think that is an important point that you mentioned, is that the issue of part-time slots that are being taken by individuals who are not participating, coming and working, that begins to put a damper on the ability of officers to then go to trainings. And I see training, and maybe I'm wrong, but I see training as a really great way for the police force to grow and to retain really great officers if we have a robust ability to go to different kinds of trainings. And so, I mean, I think that this comes back to, we really do need to get part-time police officers who will answer the call and come, so that you don't have to juggle a schedule as much.
And the overtime, if you look at the payrolls, it's very expensive, and it comes down to the taxpayers have to pay it, and I'm not against full-timers who make it overtime, it's just, it's not fair for them, it's not fair to court them. Say, yeah, I'm gonna help you out, I'm gonna work for 16 days straight.
It's not fair.
Once you should make it very upset, you should pay me a business and they tell.
God help you, chief.
So with the part-time officer issue, does it make sense to consider having more full-time officers?
It's not the full time, we just need, the adequate part-timers that, and it's still, that if you want to work, maintain a position here, you have to help out. But I put that policy 3 years ago, 100 hours a year, it's nothing, and I can get them to do 100 hours.
So we have 10 part-time officers, and how many are an issue?
Yeah, no, there's-
6? I mean,
Five, 6
so
of them.
something's not working right there. So,
And there's no mandate, I cannot, mandate people to come in.
sure.
But they have to follow the policy. I mean, you have to enforce the
Yeah.
policy.
But if we have a crisis right now, unless
Well, what is the root problem? Is the root problem that we're not paying enough? Is the root problem that people need a certain wage to live and so they're gonna go where, what is?
The root problem is, the police chief needs the support of the town board, and we have to put a mandate in here that people have to work, even a full timers, and I'm struggling right now with Halloween coming up, to cover all our traffic posts, and.
But you do have a policy right now, Chief,
Yeah,
that you need to enforce.
There's no teeth to the enforcement. Is that
which I need a template to
Well,
back me up
we
on.
need to work together though.
Yes.
We need to work together on that because, it's been a problem for a while. You sent the one letter. We have a plan. It sounds like you're gonna send a second letter. You're gonna engage the town board to then take action.
As a supervisor, I've had this discussion for.
So this is the first that I've heard of it, Ben, I don't know if you knew, but regardless, now we have a plan and we're gonna address the problem. And, we're going to be looking for 5 or 6 part-time officers.
Thank you. I'd also like to,
Let me ask another question before we go too far. How's the morale like in the department?
That's an issue, right?
You know,
I don't know who you're talking to.
I'm asking. I'm not talking to you.
Okay,
Okay,
Mr.
ask you a
Pope.
question.
On your number of officers, I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's a misquote, you have 9 full-time officers.
Sarah,
Well, if you're talking about hiring, if you're talking about this, I didn't mean to.
And I'd also like to touch on the base, the full-timers, there's no mandate to make. the
So we're down
full-timers
to
come in and
one
work.
with the full-time officers?
I've asked for this last 2 contract times, for that to be made part of it, if the older officers always understood, you have to come in, it's just not the same work, not anymore, ethics.
So I agree with.
I shouldn't say that because I got 3 officers right here that do come to work. But I wish I had more of those same 3.
so what do we need to do to motivate them to get into it?
Put some policies together, and
Well, again, we do have a policy. They need to do 100 hours.
that's the part-timers,
Yeah.
But
If the part-timers were doing that, we wouldn't have a problem.
if the part-timers were doing that, we would be able to staff it, back, with the fireworks, there's only 2 evening officers working, and myself and Kobe Jackson, they're the only 2 out of a 20-person police department, and there's no mandate, if they didn't do the call, and if they don't want to come in, I can't force them.
I think this is part of the policy's problem, is that there isn't an enforcement mechanism for the policy. It doesn't say, if you don't come in or if you don't even answer,
You're terminated.
like the policy could say that, that you must answer and you must provide it, the policy could be more specific in saying how you have to respond.
Yeah.
And then if those responses are not done, then I think that we should.
This is a policy put together by the chief.
No, I completely understand, and we felt that people would want to respond to the chief and say it.
But they realize, without the support,
Right.
the board behind the chief,
It sounds like you have it, but.
Going forward, so
Yeah.
you'll
I
absolutely.
mean, I told you to send letters out ages ago.
But you would send all the letters, it's taking action, to say, what?
We've agreed the second letter. We've read the balls in your court, send a second letter, and then we've agreed, I hear 4 of us at the table saying, yes, when you send a second letter, if you don't get responses, or if you don't get action, then the board will take board action.
So why don't we get that squared away and then,
So you'll bring that next Tuesday, a draft of the letter to go out, with a list of who has not complied.
yeah, we're even just.
Absolutely. Like I said before, they're not bad people, it's just, their lives change, and they don't want to work,
Well, they have things going on, like you say, they get a full-time job someplace and then they don't have time here, so as you say, they're good people, but it's still, we have to run a department and protect Woodstock, so we have to do it as well.
So once that issue is done, I kind of want to put out there, whether it's this town board or the next town board, somebody might go through the recommendations from the Police Reimagination Task Force, which was put together to reimagine the things that we're doing today. So I appreciate that we went through how we're doing things today and the costs associated with it. However, at some point, if we're going to talk about reimagination, then what are the 2 or 3 things that we want to consider that we implement next year? So what's cost effective, what will have the biggest bang for morale and for our officers being trained, particularly a pattern. I'd like to see a path for growth. So I think that's really, really important. That and the oversight particularly, I think will help all around. So
Accreditation.
the accreditation is a must have, yeah.
And that we'll talk about Tuesday.
Okay, yeah.
just so you understand, even if you wanted to continue accreditation, you're not gonna get these people down here before middle of next year.
We need to start that.
Yeah.
We need to start.
I never stopped though, I was silent, I kept up the speed.
Good.
But we'll pick.
So we'll pick right up and continue along. When, what trainings do you get during the year, Clayton?
What trainings do I get? I get the trainings, you get these officers, you are all.
You did the 21 hours, the mandatory.
Understand though, I'm not a road patrol officer.
I'm just asking, you don't get the.
You're not on the bicycle.
I'm not on a bicycle.
All right.
How about leadership courses?
Leadership, and there's, we talked about this before, you had the professor from the college, to all the departments. When stuff becomes available, there's leadership classes out there, but a lot of times it's in, out of states, long distance away. It's, again, I can come to you with a hefty price tag, and is it,
But it may be worth it.
You might be working for all departments to have it, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think we should, just limit it to the police department.
But the police typically get a lot more training than other departments, so.
They do it to the nature of the job, yes.
Yeah. The other departments aren't walking around with guns and tasers.
It's probably leadership, every time.
I don't know, Donald's not here, but he said his highway workers have dangerous jobs driving those big trucks on the side of the mountain up there in a nice one.
Okay, any more questions from the board? I'll entertain a question or two from the public, for the chief. Nobody?
I just want to say that I'm really grateful to the chief and this really safe police department, that we don't have brutality or any kind of crap.
Thank you very much.
You can thank the 2 officers behind you and the one sitting next to you.
Yeah, it's a team effort, absolutely.
Okay, so the town board will
There's a-
meet next.
Sorry.
So we'll plan to meet next Tuesday, 6 o'clock. Hold on, Sarah. At 6 o'clock for executive session. And then there's the budget hearings are Tuesday and Thursday at 9 o'clock. Okay. Sarah, did you have a question?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to know, you were asking about the morale. When I was speaking with some officers, they were unaware of who was on this task force itself. And Chief Keith, you said you were unaware of who was on the task force. So I'm just wondering if you have if everyone is feeling solid about that now, do you feel that you've had better communication with everyone going forward?
You know, yeah,
Do you feel like it's a
you know, I
solid-
have to say that for 7 months, I had no idea what exactly the task force was doing, and I'm a full-time member of the police department,
Well,
other than
yeah,
assessing,
you are full-time and, we're talking about getting on a third sergeant. I understand, like, Van Bogart. There are 2 officers I learned from Bill McKenna today, our supervisor today, that are on. I know Corey Schmidt does a great job. He's on the task force. He's right here. And yes, I support him. I support training for everybody, for these guys who do a great job. And Hoban was standing right next to you when you came up during our WEC meeting, during our environmental commission meeting, to turn the alarm that was tripped somehow when we came into the building. But that's when also I asked you to please return my multiple messages, and you promised you would. And we talked about concerns because there are 2 other people that aren't officers, and that's Jackie Early, who's our clerk, who's bullied me, and also our board in this public room and wouldn't let me speak. Like, oh gosh, I thought I thought I had an invisible hand, like my invisible writing in this room when I get shut down. And it's only for trying to create transparency. I want you to have transparency. I want our town to have transparency with what we're trying to achieve here. And I'm hearing some cross between the budget and what we're trying to achieve here. So I just want us to all be safe in this. What are we trying to do when Erin Moran is on the task force? And I don't know what's happening with, is there a lawsuit when she's accusing our town supervisor of putting a knife and a tarot card with a message on her windshield at the Legion that hangs up the phone? If you ask, what happened with that? Nothing. I don't know what you're talking about, click. And they are very flippant in regard to that, like,
Who's
oh, I don't
flippant?
know. So, you're like, oh, I don't know, and Erin's like, oh, I don't know, but she's threatening defamation lawsuits against people in our town. That feels unsafe. She lost a lawsuit against people in our town that she's bullying.
Okay, Sarah, do you have questions for the chief about the?
Well, I wanna know what this tone is we're trying to set, and you are the person who has assigned these people to the task force, and it's not quite clear if Melanie, your secretary, thought that Erin Moran wasn't on the task force. And my survey to our task force, me personally, Sarah Yanish, that is how Jackie can pronounce my name when she returns. It's been years. She's a clerk. Her job is to clerk, not to bully you.
I'm gonna wrap up this meeting.
So I don't like that bullies have been assigned by you.
Thank you.
And
No,
then
duly
to
noted,
further
Sarah.
bully perhaps our town. We need to feel safe here. We
Okay.
have great officers. I don't want them in a bad light. If we have anybody returning, perhaps, to our police force,
Move to adjourn.
to put them in a bad light, we need
All
to
in
back
favor?
our good.
Aye.
We got
Thank you,
to
Sarah.
Thank you.
Chief?
And